everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Annassa. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. So let's start with meditation. Take your attention inside. And visualize that you are surrounded by Divine Mother energy. And that as you inhale, all the nurturing, love, beauty, appreciation, all of these qualities are coming into you. And as you exhale, anything, any negativity, any darkness, any heaviness in you is being released. And you just allow it to go. As you inhale this Divine Mother energy, that's completely healing. It's full of what we call pranic plasma. Pranic plasma is life force energy that has within it the most intense healing frequencies that we can bring to you. So breathe in this divine healing light energy and exhale any heaviness in your being. Understand that you are choosing love and allowing anything that is not reflective of that love to go. Or let's say not congruent with that love. And don't worry, anything that you want to pick up after meditation will still be there if you wish. So you're inhaling the experience of unconditional love and exhaling everything else. Feel this energy come in and begin to permeate every cell of your body. As you expand this energy and allow it to completely occupy your body, visualize in the center of your chest a tiny being the size of a thumb. This being is sitting on a lotus in the center of your chest. And as you look closely, you see that it is yourself in a completely realized state. Breathe into this being and allow it to expand to occupy your entire physical body. Continuing to exhale any heaviness or darkness that you might feel. as you occupy your entire being with this completely realized self. Now allow yourself to expand to encompass your entire city, so that everything in the city you live in is inside you. And then you expand to encompass the entire earth. All of earthly experience resides within you. And now expand to encompass the entire solar system. Now allow yourself to expand to encompass the entire universe. Everything within the universe is within you. And now allow yourself to expand to encompass the entire multiverse. Everything that is within you. Allow yourself to experience this vastness of being. Slowly allow your awareness to begin to come back. Till you're encompassing the solar system. Then the earth. And when you get to the room that you're sitting in, stop and look down at the person who began this meditation. Still feeling the expansive quality within your being. Reach your hand down to the top of the head of your body and pour this expansive light into your body, loving itself. Then gently gather your energy inward. And when you're ready, you can come present to our question and answer program. We are so delighted to be here with you today. How may we serve? We welcome your questions. So what shall we talk about?
The term human condition is a lot. What the hell is the human condition?
The human condition. Well, what they're talking about is a generalized view of a human being and they're talking about an average. You know, the human condition is suffering. That's the first tenet of the Buddhist philosophy, that to be human is to experience suffering, old age, and death. And so the quest for enlightenment is offered as an alternative. So the question was, what is the human condition that they talk about in spiritual texts? So the Buddhist philosophy is that the human condition is, you know, for most of us, there's a fair amount of at least mental and emotional struggle as we face the issues of the day. And inner work is offered as a way to become comfortable. Comfortable is not really the right word. as an alternative view of what human life is for, beyond struggle and suffering. That human life is actually an opportunity for a heroic quest, or an heroic quest, to discover oneself as a projection of divinity, as a projection of divine resource that is inseparable from its source. Which means that as we contemplate our matrix of belief, the systemic worldview that was handed to us by our peers and elders when we arrived on this planet, as we begin to examine that matrix of belief and discover that it has more limitation built into it than it does any opportunity for true mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. That it's more of a survival technique that was handed to us by our peers and elders so that we would learn to behave in harmony with the politically correct aspirations of the time. Because our peers and elders wanted us to be able to fit in, assuming that happiness could be equated with becoming one of the herd. Since we are mammals and possibly herd mammals. We do live in cities and clumps and clusters. Most of us don't willingly live alone. It's not the primary choice that most of us would make or do make. That's not always true, especially as we age and begin to enjoy our own company more and more. Then it becomes a real choice to inhabit our own environment. The human condition. Does that answer your question?
It just seems like a cop-out word a lot of the time.
It is a cop-out word, but I think for the majority of humanity with unexamined life, you can use that word. And then as people begin in whatever way, and hopefully education contains some of this self-awareness is what we're talking about. Self-awareness that is pursued to the point of knowing God as unconditional love. And we can't leave out goddess. We can't leave it just to the masculine, because all parts are welcome. And of course, there is fundamental equality. How could all parts be welcome otherwise? So everyone on this call is part of the heroic quest for union with the divine. This union already exists. It's not something that we have to create that doesn't already exist within us. It's something that we have to uncover. It is covered by our matrix of belief and all the silt that has gathered from our reactivity to experiences that take us into survival states and states of defense and negativity. And these states accumulate a kind of cloudiness that permeates our light field. Human beings are, at their essence, a field of light, a field of rainbow light, where all parts are welcome and the different frequencies have different color spectrums. So our task is to become luminous once again, luminous clarity. And that luminous clarity becomes a rainbow body. And this is the image in Buddhism of the enlightened being, the rainbow body with light just pouring out like a kaleidoscope of rainbow light. This is what we are becoming as we clear our field, our energetic field. We clear our energetic field by allowing the darkness to leave. It's not exactly that we have to bring in the light already exists. We are that light. There is no way we could be separate from it without dying. But as we uncover that light and allow it to permeate every cell of our body, so that we become aware of that light. And this is what ultimate realization is when that luminosity becomes the primary focus of our attention. And we are that. Every human being is capable of that. And from a certain perspective, every human being is on this earth to begin to experience that. And make no mistake, when we enter the womb, we are that. And when we exit this body, we are that once again. We are that the entire time we are here, we're just not aware of it. So what we are cultivating is self-awareness with a capital S. And that self being the luminous divinity at the core of our existence. So meditation is about immersing ourselves in that divine field of unconditional love. Because that is what we wish to cultivate within ourselves to become self-aware of our innate luminosity as light beings. And that means that the whole spectrum of experience is always available to us. So our meditation cannot be exclusive and only allow in divine light. Although everything is divine light, it can't be exclusive in that it only let us put it this way. With expanded awareness of higher states of consciousness, there is also expanded awareness of the equal and opposite states of consciousness. Expanded awareness doesn't go in just one direction, and we always have a choice. And so part of expanded awareness is choosing love. But understand that choosing love and choosing happiness are not always the same. As a matter of fact, choosing love lends itself to experiencing the darkness of others. To help enlighten. That is where the word comes from. To regain luminosity. And of course, this is an endless quest because there is always more. As the vastness of the multiverse is ever expanding, so is the vastness of what's available. In terms of energetic luminosity. How may we serve further? Anything, Brenda? Andrew?
There's a question about there's just so many things going on, and person around. It's kind of it's a kind of white noise, which makes it very hard to actually focus on. And I just wonder if you have any suggestions. It sometimes it's, I can find time to do it, but often I don't have that luxury. But that's perception.
So the question is, in this chaotic time for many of us, it becomes difficult to access quiet, the quiet that we would associate with a meditative state. Now, this assumes that meditation is a quality of mind, that the experience of meditation is a quality of mind, mental awareness. And meditation itself encompasses our entire being, that which we are aware of and that which we are not aware of. And so when we are in periods of great change internally, then meditation itself can become a chaotic experience, a reflection of the chaos that we are living in our day-to-day life. This does not mean that we are failing at meditation. It means that we are going through a change, that we are going from one state to another. And very much these energetic shifts are similar in terms of their energetic requirement and our experience of them to water boiling and changing state. So it takes a certain amount of energy to get the whole thing moving so that it's getting ready to change its state. And then once it starts to boil, it appears to be totally random. It's completely energy gone amok. You don't know what's happening. And then it turns to steam, which has a totally different frequency than water. And this happens to us over and over and over again as we uncover the layers of our darkness, for want of another word, the things that cloud this luminous field. As we begin to resolve those layers and they fall out of our experience, our beingness goes through an evolutionary shift where for certain periods of time, we have no idea what's going on because we are changing in a way that we can't see the future because we've never been there before in our conscious awareness in this life. So as that change begins to happen, our world is literally rocked. And it always feels like it's being rocked from the outside in, and then the inside out, and then the outside in, and then the inside out. You can't tell which is which, who's doing what to whom. It doesn't matter. But instead of regarding this as an experience of failure to meditate, understand that it's an experience of change happening. And change happening doesn't, it's not like you shift gears in your car and suddenly you're in a different field. It's not like that. There are periods of chaos in every change, every internal change that we go through. And so it's very important that we stop judging what's going on inside us and let go of our idea that an evolved human being experiences nothing but peace, joy, love, and gratitude. This is not true. An evolved human being experiences everything with more acuteness than, all the dulling that we do to ourselves, all the numbing that we do to try to avoid our pain. So as we expand, we embrace everything as we become more. And so at every stage, we are challenged still. And still, the human condition permeates our experience. There is still suffering and disappointment and struggle. What happens is that we find a place of equanimity in that struggle. Which doesn't mean we don't experience it. Of course we experience it even more acutely, but we learn what is real and enduring about being a human being, and what is real and enduring and always available is that unconditional love, which is the source of every breath. And when we can be in the chaos of human experience and the equanimity of unconditional love in the same moment, and that moment persists, then we have something. We have a union of the human condition and divine unconditional love. That doesn't mean there's no chaos. Doesn't mean there's no pain. Doesn't mean there's no pleasure. All of it still exists. It doesn't change. We do. Our perception of who and what we are becomes ever more refined because of our attention on it. Whatever we give our attention to is what grows in us. Whatever we think about the most is what we become. Thoughts have power. Feelings have a different kind of power. How may we serve further? Did that answer your question? Brenda, anything? All quiet. Good morning, Suzanne.
Good morning. I think we're quiet because there's so much to think about.
It's true.
Yes, yes. I want to go back to the opening meditation. I found myself as I'm imagining, encompassing all of the city and, on and beyond. There's a part of me that wants to, well, I'll say reject some of the things that are just going so wrong in the city, and the power is going on in the earth right now, and that's where my literal mind sort of comes in and takes over a little bit, and that disturbs me. I don't know how to get past that.
The way we get past anything is really understanding that the witness state is what we are cultivating, and that reactivity that engages in problems is simply that. It's reactivity. And the point of what we're doing is allowing that reactivity to fade in our perception so that we can see what is beneath it, or what still remains when reactivity subsides.
As soon as you said the word witness, that I realized that was what I was missing. And I understood that, but wasn't using that at that point. Yeah. Yeah. Rather than reactivity. Thank
And
you.
our reactivity will always be there. That's part of the human condition.
Well, I know it's part of my condition. I guess
Well, have you ever met anybody that doesn't react?
no, I guess I haven't. Yeah. This conversation is very, very helpful for me. Thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome.
And the question before, yes, thank you.
We're so delighted to be here with all of you. This is really, really special. And you notice that every week there seems to be an added depth to what is shared. And that is a reflection of your willingness to share and your growth, bringing it out of us.
Mhm.
So we could not do this without you, because you're our field. You pull it out of us by your willingness.
Thank you.
So you are so welcome. So your participation is required for us to be able to function. And it's your quality of reception that allows us to go deeper and more expanded every week. So this is no small thing, this process that we're doing together. How may we serve further? We welcome your questions. We're also fine with the silence.
It's really specific, so.
It's okay.
I'm struggling. It's not just the local issue, but certainly dealing with it locally, the issue of the encampment and the homeless and the ever battle of how to solve this problem. And I'm wondering if we need to pull the camera back, that because since there seems to be no solution, one solution that works, or even hybrid, are we thinking about it not in the correct way? Are we trying to handle this in our, is there something bigger that we're missing? And if there's any insight in addressing It's taking up so much energy.
Well, as a culture, we have failed to provide a safe haven for people who don't fit in the culture, for the misfits. You know, in India, they have a category of outcast, which involves people who really don't fit, who become wandering sadhus, and they're beggars. But they're treated with respect because they've made the choice of renunciation. And so people feed them and give them money to survive because they know that these people are dedicated to the highest well-being of all. And so there is sort of a social construct, an outlet for those who don't fit, who really, you know, in this culture at certain points were considered mentally ill and, you know, put in institutions, which may or may not be preferable to what's happening. But there has always been, and probably always will be, cultural misfits. And now that has expanded as our culture has become a culture of very wealthy and everybody else. There is an equal and opposite unwealthy class that has become homeless. And in each case, the story is slightly different. So we can't overly generalize about the experiences that have brought people to the homeless condition. But what they would share in common is that for whatever reason, they no longer fit. And they don't have the resources, or they prefer outdoor living to institutional life, the institutional life that might be more restrictive than what they are willing to endure. Because understand, the institutional life that's offered for homeless people is not that much fun. And many people who are homeless are also individualistic in a certain way, that they don't want to be contained and restrained. And so institutional living is not really appealing. And in some cases, not really possible. So there are, you know, there is required some social reorganization to accommodate these people. And when thinking about what lifestyle could be appropriate, it's important that we put ourselves in their position so that often the institutional offerings are inappropriate to the types of people that would be willing to inhabit them. And so it's this misfit that makes it a problem without a solution in our culture at this moment. So the solutions have to be more creative.
How do we put ourselves in their position without applying our lens to it? Because for me, I would want to do what I would need to do to be out of that. But that's not always the case. There's actually a very small percentage from what I continue to learn of people in the homeless state that are really looking to, it's some unfortunate series of situations and they do want to change that. And others, mental illness, there's others that just, and others who prefer, like.
That's exactly what we're saying.
But
Yes.
there's, so if I put myself in that position, I would want to find a way out of that. But that's
Not everybody wants that.
no.
So, maybe what's needed are spaces that are, more in nature, where people can just roam free. Instead of, being huddled in tents in the middle of cities. More creative thinking is required. And it lends itself to the question, what do we do with misfits in our culture? What do we do? Are we responsible for their well-being? Even having this conversation assumes that the greater whole is responsible for the individual. And what we're seeing is a reflection of the idea that a large part of our culture would rather have it be every man and woman for his and herself. Because these people have been denied access in a certain way. Once you don't have an address, you no longer have cultural access. So it's a big question and a very difficult one, and it requires a bigger perspective than at the moment the powers that be seem to have. Because generally what happens is that we see the world the way we are. And so we can't understand a person who's different from us. So we judge them and we try to put narrow frameworks around them to make them more like us. And that doesn't work, of course. So it's important to cultivate a witness state, see what's real, and then begin to think of ways to accommodate that might actually turn into something that supports the whole. But it has to have some freedom of choice in it, because without buy-in from the people you're trying to help, there's no way it's going to work. Because as we all know, change only happens from within the person themselves. Real change. So the question is how to inspire that in a person who's lost everything. But it's clear to everyone that limiting resources for these people is not a solution. Nor is just providing resources. It's more complicated than that. So, wish we had a better answer.
More creativity.
Yes.
Making sure those who are able to, from that community, can have a meaningful voice and participation, realizing the entire homeless community is but unique fingerprints of individualized requests and situations.
Yeah, there are probably 4 or 5 categories that would encompass most people. And each of those would require a different solution. So when looked at from that perspective, there might be a more opportunity to participate in a meaningful way. But one of the real requirements for change in any dynamic of our culture is that people feel more empowered by whatever external change is offered rather than less. This is why education, the availability of education for people is very often part of an ultimate solution. Bringing back the instructions about critical thinking that are so severely lacking in education at this moment as we embrace a fact-free world. This could go a long way. How may we serve further? Yes. Pamela.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. Along the same lines, and including Suzanne's, the answer to Suzanne about being a witness, another segment of the population seems to be obstructing the forces of light at every turn. And besides responding to that in myself by exhaling the forces within me that obstruct the greater good and love, is there anything more specific than just witnessing? It seems as though, and this is just a mental construct, but the forces of light are opposed equally forcefully by the forces of dark. And I see it everywhere, even in our own very isolated, in a way, environment. The people that come into it, like our tree surgeon, for example, the person who was supposed to fix our chimney, both of whom were, I mean, I have dealt with them in a kind way, but I definitely want them out of our lives. And I sort of feel that way about the greater whole. I want these obstructors to move away, to up level, to somehow become part of the movement towards the light and the good for all, including the planet.
So it would seem, let us paraphrase and you tell us if we're saying the right thing. It would seem that the question is, what do we do when we're in the presence of the darkness of others? Is that sort of what the question is? How do we impact the darkness of others? We've lost you. Is that a fair representation of your question? Give me a yes or no. Can't hear you. Anything we can do, Brenda?
There we go.
Good,
There, I see you again.
good.
Yes.
Okay. So what do we do when we're around a dark person? Well, first of all, we go into witness state. We take ourselves out of reactivity, because it's only from witness state that we can have any clarity. So it's a very conscious thing, and it's a really good thing to practice, because the only time we can really have any impact is when we're in flow in ourselves. And the only way we can be in flow in ourselves is to be out of reactivity. So that means when we meet someone who has a completely different perspective and a completely different manner of expressing it, that we just stand back and watch, because they haven't come here to harm us. They just are who they are. And what is it in us that's so repulsed by that? That's an interesting question to take into meditation. And then what is it in us that gets so reactive that it can't release into witness? I guess that's the same question. So anyway, having gotten yourself to witness, which is hard. We're not saying this is easy. It's hard, but you just kind of step back a little bit and go, whoa, that really excited something in me. Let's look a little deeper. You take a deep breath. You acknowledge your feeling. Wow, this person's really dark. And you look with curiosity. Curiosity always helps when you're trying to get to witness state, because usually what happens is somebody comes in and you feel attacked by their energy, like they're somehow trying to undermine your wa, for want of a better word. And so this is our experience anyway, you begin to shut down parts of yourself because you don't want to be touched by their negativity. So the interesting thing to do in this moment is to step back, drop the reaction, just let it go, and witness out of curiosity. Like, a strange animal has just walked into your environment and you have no idea who they are, what they want, or what makes them work. So instead of feeling like you have to defend yourself, you just allow yourself to see what's there. And you look like an alien being has just walked into your environment. How interesting. What makes this person tick? And see if that doesn't give you a little more insight to what's going on. And there is always a place with almost every person, especially service people who come into your environment. There's almost always a place that you can find of commonality where you can put just a little whisper of flow into that relationship. It may be that you like the same food, or that you delight in the same kind of tree, or that there's going to be some commonality. You like the same wine. You agree it's a beautiful day. There's going to be a place like that where you can infuse good feeling toward that person. And that good feeling will very often be reflected back to you. And then what looked like an impossible relationship that you couldn't wait to get rid of, you've discovered a place where you can make flow. And that flow often looks like an infinity symbol. It's like you have found a point of contact with that other person, and you flow into that, and then they flow back at you, and their whole day has changed. Their whole life may have changed by that contact with you and your willingness to just step back and look for a way, look for a leverage point of participation, just a tiny little speck where you might agree about something. And so your quest becomes finding that leverage point rather than reacting to the difference. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, in fact, my husband's really good at that.
It's mine.
And I
Artful Dodger.
yeah, that's one of
Yes.
the things that I see is that it's kind of superficial, but it does work. And in fact, that's how I do deal with the people who are different, as you say, and kind of on a different trajectory in their worldview than we are. But and that's good on a personal level. On the the bigger person, the bigger societal level, though, I still have reaction to the people. Well, they parade down the road here with their flags on their trucks and their Trump, and they're yelling and opposition to any of the so-called liberal values that I see as the way forward for the country, the planet, everything. And, to the people in Congress who seem to be saying no to everything that seems to be productive of the good. I am witnessing them, and I do not know how to incorporate them somehow in a loving way. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, and it's a completely wonderful question. So the question is, with all the obstructors that we see in the greater arena.
Yeah.
How do we deal with that? How do we deal with that? Well, obviously the first answer, and you already covered it in your question, the first answer is to really keep refining our own ability to witness and keep refining our own ability to interact with greater and greater expansive capacity with those that we encounter that we disagree with. Because it's in creating flow with those that we disagree with that we create the possibility of having a voice in their lives. As we make ourselves available to relationship with those whom we disagree violently, almost,
Yeah.
the only way in is really, you can't go in at the level of your disagreement. There is no, that's like this. So you have to find a point of contact and gradually create opening and then flow. And when there's flow, then there's the option for the other to change. Because what you're pouring in is light. And that light is, well, it's undeniable. That person will become attached to you. And all kinds of change can happen. But it takes time. It doesn't happen in one encounter. It doesn't happen in 2 encounters. It happens in 200 encounters. Then there might be a shift. So this is a life's work. And so often we expect that if we become light and love, then everybody around us will, immediately change. Doesn't happen. Nothing happens fast. And so it's really the quality and the depth of our own inner work and the continuous improvement that we engage in ourselves that gives us the capacity to engage ever more deeply with those whom we meet. And as we understand the capacity to change in ourselves, then we begin to see more clearly in other people where the leverage points are for expanded communication. And as we begin to practice that, then we just get better and better at it, and the expansion will occur because we are practicing it from the moment we begin to meditate in the day. When we expand to encompass everything, you notice we don't leave out anybody else's negativity or our own. We allow it to fall away, which is very different from active resistance or
confrontation.
Yes, that's exactly right. Confrontation.
Did she hear
No.
you?
Yes, I did. Your microphone's still on. So
We're still on?
yes.
Oh, dear.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
How do we go away when it's time? No.
Brenda, you'll have to take care of that one.
Yeah, I know.
We're happy to have you. And that was the right word
We'll
at
just
the
be-
right time.
We'll just be very quiet.
Well,
Oh, I have one more question. You say that, I mean, I can see how this would work with the people I actually meet. And then there's the more abstract.
Great unwashed.
give it to God.
What? Give it to
Give
God.
it to God,
Okay.
to the goddess.
Yes.
This isn't in our hands. We do the best we can in every encounter we have.
Okay.
We're not responsible for more than that.
Yay.
Yes, but we are responsible for that.
Yes. Yes.
And so acknowledging that and living in that in our highest possible is the best any of us can do. And you will see your own life, as you have already seen, becomes the source of magic, mystery, and miracle.
That is so true.
And as that happens and you live more and more in the gratitude that those experiences engender in you, then this big thing of flow really starts to get more and more. And when you're living in that appreciation, it's much easier to go to witness state.
Yeah.
And there you go, everything expands. And so this is a place where you trust the process. And you just give it to God and Goddess. And you allow for the fact that everything is always expanding. And
Thank you.
you are so welcome. Thank you for your questions. So it's time for us to go into meditation. That went fast. So what we're going to do is allow you to continue with the meditation we started at the beginning of the morning. And maybe encourage you to meditate on the Om sound, because that allows an expansiveness from the center outward as we begin our transmission phase of the program. And so this will be open eye and silent, and you are welcome to participate with your eyes open or closed, whichever works for you. So thank you so much in advance for being here today. And we'll go into meditation now. That was far too short, but time has come in. So much love to you all. We so enjoy being with you. I have to say that next week, something has come up and we won't be able to be here for the program, but we will be here in 2 weeks, just like usual. And we look forward to seeing you then. So much love. We'll miss you. Bye for now.